Hello and welcome to this third session. In the previous two sessions, we were able to install Ubuntu operating system and configure Apache web server. We were also able to install FreeNAS operating system, and we have put the Nextcloud application in our web server. So the contents of the web server will be copied to the FreeNAS box, and then we will intentionally delete the contents from the web server, and we will check if we are able to recover the files or not. Now we are going to copy two type of files here. The first or the website contents, and the second file that we are going to copy is the database file. So let's get started. Now this is our FreeNAS box. If you go to pools under storage, we currently have no pool of storage. Now we can add a new pool, so later we can create data set, and that data set to be the destination for the contents of the website being the source. So let's create a pool. Give it a name like back app. But here we see that we don't have any disks. But if you go to the storage and then disks, we see here that only one disk is available here, which is DA0. Now this is the disk where the operating system, the FreeNAS operating system, has been installed, so we can't use this disk. So what we have to do is to create additional disks. So we can create a pool out of those disks and then create a data set and then copy the contents to that data set. In order to create the disks, let's go to the virtual machine. Now in my case, I'm using VMware Workstation Pro. Your situation might be different. You might be using a type 1 hypervisor, or you might be using a different type 2 hypervisor than the VMware Workstation. You might be using VirtualBox. So this procedure is going to be different. Or some of you might have a physical dedicated hardware for the FreeNAS operating system to work as a backup server. So let's right click on the machine and go to settings. Here click add and select hard disk and click next. The recommended one is SCSI. Now what's happening here? The thing is that I have a physical machine which has a host operating system, which is Windows operating system. Then I'm using type 2 hypervisor, which is VMware Workstation, and then on top of that I'm using FreeNAS operating system. Now what happens when I'm creating a disk here? The VMware Workstation is actually using the physical disk available in my server and creating a virtual disk out of it. So if you click next, here we can see that we are creating a virtual disk. So this is a virtual disk. The virtual disk is created out of our physical storage, which is available in this server. The VMware Workstation is creating a virtual disk out of physical disk, which is available to this server. In your case, you might be using directly the physical hard disks available in your server, and you don't have to create these virtual hard disks. So as I have said before, that this step is going to be totally dependent based on what type of hypervisor you're using, if it's hypervisor level 1 or it is level 2, or what type of hypervisor it is. It's VMware or VirtualBox, or if you are not using the virtualization technology, you are having separate physical box for each server. So this step will be totally different based on your scenario. Let's continue. I will give 10 gig of space and click next and finish. Here I can see I have created one new hard disk. I will continue this process to create a couple of more. Click next, recommended, next, 10 gig, next, finish. Okay, here we can see that I have 5 virtual disks. The first one is used for the operating system installation, and the rest 4 hard disks will be used to create a pool out of it. So press OK, and now let's go back to the web UI. Let's refresh the page. Here we can see our newly created disks are showing. So now let's continue the creation of the pool. Add pool, create a new pool, name it, in my case backup, click suggest layout. Here I will select all 4 newly created virtual hard disks. The schema that is used is RAID Z2. Based on this scheme, I have a raw capacity of 16 gigabytes. I have totally 4 hard disks. Each one of 10 gigabytes makes it 40 gigabytes or 40 GB. Now you can study more about RAID Z2. This is for the redundancy purpose. This gives us the ability to not lose the data in case of disk's failure. So the data is replicated among many virtual hard disks, and if any hard disk fail, we will not lose the data. So you could browse and learn more about RAID configurations and the ZFS file system, but for now just understand that out of 40 GB of disk space, we are only available with 16 GB of free disk that we can utilize. You could select other option based on your scenario. You can just click here and select. Now I will continue to create the pool. Confirm, create pool. Here we can see I have a healthy pool called backup. So the pool has been successfully created. Now I will create a dataset. Add dataset. I will name it web server backup. For now I will leave the options to its default, but you could change them based on your preferences. Save. So I have created a dataset on my backup pool. Now this dataset is going to be the destination for the contents of the website. If we click on these 3 dots, go to edit permission, we can see here the root user, which is a part of the wheel group, has the read, write and execute permission over this dataset. Now, the second thing in order to complete this task is to go to services and enable few services that are required for this process. First one is the Rsync service. The Rsync service is actually copying the contents from source to destination, and when it has copied the contents, then it can check for any changes between source and destination, and you could perform either pull or push operations. So this service is used for copying contents and keeping track of changes happening into the source or destination. The next service that we are going to enable is the SSH, which stands for Secure Shell. This creates a secure connection between source and destination, so the contents being copied by the Rsync service are fully encrypted, because Rsync will be using the SSH protocol, and the SSH protocol will make sure to encrypt the contents being transferred. So I will check these boxes in order to start them automatically when the server is rebooted. Now that we have configured these services, we have to make sure that the FreeNAS box is able to communicate with the web server. So let's go to the FreeNAS box, press 9 for shell access. You have to make sure we can SSH into the web server, so type SSH, the user, root, and the IP address of the web server, 168.235.134. Here we are at our web server. Now, it didn't ask for any password, it just directly got connected, and this is exactly what we need. So our Rsync service can automatically connect itself to the web server and copy the contents. But how is this actually happening, the authentication? Now, in order to make this work, you have to create a key pair, and to create a key pair, just type SSH-keygen. Just keep the default options and press enter until the operation is completed. Once you have finished this process, you will be having two files created, two files, one being the private key and another being the public key. So if you long list with the hidden files, you can see that we have a .ssh folder. So let's cd to the .ssh folder and list the contents of this folder. We can see here we have two keys, one the ID RSA, which is our private key, and we never share this key with anyone, and the second one is ID RSA .pub, which is our public key, and this is the key that we have to share it with our web server. In that we do using the command SSH copy -id with the option I, path root .ssh /id RSA public. So this is the command that is going to copy the public key of the FreeNAS root user to the Ubuntu server. Now before copying this public key to the Ubuntu box, we have to make sure that we can create an SSH connection to that box. So let's go to the Ubuntu box. Let me change to the root user, sudo su password Ubuntu. Okay, now if you go to the etc SSH directory, list the contents. Let us have a look at SSH d underscore config nano SSH d underscore config. Okay, come to this section where it says permit root login. Now remove the comment and come to this prohibit password and press enter and make this part as comment and type yes after a space. Put a space and type yes and Ctrl X and Y and save. Now once you have configured this part, now you can go back to the FreeBSD operating system and now you can execute this command. This will ask you for the password of the root of the Ubuntu box. So what is this command going to do is to copy the public key of the root user of FreeNAS operating system to the root user of the Ubuntu machine. Now we have just configured the SSH of root user. Okay, so press enter and it will prompt you for the password of root user of the Ubuntu system. Enter the password, and once you have entered the password, it will copy this public key to the Ubuntu box. Then you can go back and change the settings. Now you can change the setting back to the default that permit root login but prohibit password. This means that you can log in to the root account but not with a password, only with the use of key. So only with the use of keys you can log in to the system. But now we have already copied the key of the FreeNAS root user to this system and it is placed in the authorized section. So this will no longer ask for the password, and we have also disabled the password part here, and using the keys it will be able to log in. So Ctrl X, press Y. Okay, now that we have successfully copied the key from the FreeNAS box to the Ubuntu server, let's create an Rsync task so it can pull the data from the web server. Add a task, the path being the destination where when the contents are copied from the web server where we want to store them, and we will select the web server backup dataset that we have just created. The user is going to be root, remote host is the web server 192.168.235.134. Rsync mode, we have configured SSH. You can use Rsync module, but we are using it with the SSH because we have just configured the SSH service. Remote path is the contents of the website. They are located at var www html directory. So the contents are here, contents of the website. Direction is going to be pulling the contents from the web server. In case of recovery, we could use the push operation, but now we have to copy the contents first. We use pull operation. Short description, schedule task. We will schedule this task to happen daily, and here are some other options. You could just click on this help icon to know about the option, but for us we will tick mark this preserve permission, so the contents that are copied from the web server are preserved with their permissions, so in time of recovery there's no permissions mismatch. So we will preserve the permissions of the files, and let's save. Okay, the pulling task has been configured. Now we have to just click here and run it. By running this task, what happens is that Rsync service will copy the contents of the web server to the destination, being our web server backup data set. This is a pull operation. The direction is pull, and all the permissions will be preserved. So let's run the operation. Run Rsync nav, continue. This will take some time in order to copy all the contents from the website. In your first Rsync pull task, it will take more time compared to the subsequent pull operations, because once the contents are copied in the subsequent operations, only the changes will be copied. Now the operation is running and it's copying the files. Okay, the operation was successful. We were able to copy the website contents, and they are stored within the web server dataset. Yes, now if we go to the website that is running in our web server at this IP address and /next cloud, user admin, password Ubuntu at 123, I guess. Okay, now this is Nextcloud application running in our web server. Everything works fine. We are able to log in. We are able to see the contents of the website. We can look at the photos. The web application is working completely fine. Okay, now what are we planning to do here is we want to intentionally delete the contents of this website. So what we will do is to go to our Ubuntu box. We know that these contents are served from this directory var www html next cloud. List the contents. These are the contents that are served from the next cloud directory. Okay, now we will delete this directory. It means we will delete the complete website. So just type rm with option R on var www html next cloud. List the contents. Okay, now the next cloud directory is gone. It means we have lost the whole website. Let's go to the web browser, refresh the page not found. All data is gone. Okay, now we have a backup of this website and we have these contents in our FreeNAS box. So what we can do is we can either create a new task in order to push the data, or we can just edit this task, and this time the same operation, but the direction is pushing. So now here, this time, this is the source. Our FreeNAS box is the source. This is our destination. In the pull operation, this was the destination. This was the source of the contents. In the push operation, this is the source of the data. Our data set is the source of the data, and the remote path is the destination, and we are pushing data to it. So let me save the task. We can see the direction is push. Let's push the contents back to the web server. Let's run it. Continue. Run. Continue. Now this will take some time to copy all the contents that were previously backed up from the web server with their correct permissions. Okay, it is successful. We were able to successfully push data to the Ubuntu box. Okay, here we see that our files are back to the Ubuntu box. So let's cd to the web server backup directory, list the file, cd to the HTML, list the files. Okay, here we see we have actually copied the whole HTML directory. Okay, let's long list the contents. Here we can see that the permissions were preserved during the transmission, but in my first attempt I had one issue with the permissions, and that was that during the push and pull operation I didn't select archive. If you click on this information button, it says that when Rsync is running recursively, it's preserving permissions. So make sure that you have tick marked archive while pushing and pulling the contents. So let's go back here. Let's move this directory back to the HTML directory. So move next cloud to the var www html. Let's go back. Okay, let me remove this web server backup. rm r web server backup. Okay, clear the screen, list the contents. Here we can see that our Nextcloud directory is back, and if we refresh the page not found, hopefully we are getting our website back. Let's refresh, and here it is. Our website is back and it's live. One more thing that we have mentioned that we are going to be backing it up is the database file. So the procedure is going to be the same. We have to pull the database file to the FreeNAS system, and then if there was any changes to the database, we could push the file back to the Ubuntu box. Now, how to get the database file? Let's look at this command. Okay, let's go to the Ubuntu machine. We are at the HTML directory. Now this is the command mysql dump. The user is Ubuntu because this is the user which has the privileges over the database, and our database name is Nextcloud. What will mysql dump command do is that it will create a copy of the database, and if we press this command, it will ask for the password, which was Nextcloud 19. And if we list the contents, here we can see that we have an additional file called backup file nextcloud.sql. If we cut the contents of this backup and pipe it to more, we can see this is all the database contents of the Nextcloud application, and they are in this file called backup file nextcloud.sql. Next time, if we are going to do the pull operation of the HTML directory, we will have a backup of the database file as well, and in case of any unexpected changes in our database, we could push this file back from the FreeNAS server to this Ubuntu box, and we could upload it just using this command. You see that it is, in this case, it's mysql, not mysql dump. mysql dump will download the database. mysql command, this will upload the database back. Same command, and the only difference is that now we are uploading this. The arrow has changed. Now we are uploading this file back to the database, and the time of download, it was the other side, pointing the other side. If we press enter, it asks for the password, which was Nextcloud 19, and our database is now successfully updated with this backup file that we had. So the procedure is the same. The only thing that you have to know is that using mysql dump with the user of the database and the database name itself, and give it one name for the file that you're going to download. Just download the database contents, and during the pull operation, this file will be also copied to the FreeNAS box. And if any unexpected changes happened to your database, you could just push this file back to the Ubuntu, and using this command, upload it back to the database. So this was a series of 3 sessions on backup server. So what we have learned in these 3 sessions: we have configured web server, we have hosted a website, we installed FreeNAS operating system to work as a backup server, we intentionally deleted the website contents, and we were able to recover them back from the FreeNAS box. Thank you.